I never imagined I'd find myself at this strange intersection in life, hovering between familiarity and the unknown, my heart beating with a rhythm I hadn't felt in what seemed like ages. At 39, I didn't feel young anymore, but I wasn't old either. I existed somewhere in that quiet middle ground, drifting between who I had once been and the woman I was gradually becoming. I had spent almost 20 years married to a man who had once lit up my world. In the early years, our life was full of color and laughter. Everything felt vivid and alive. But slowly, like autumn leaves fading before winter, that vibrancy disappeared. What we had turned into a set routine, predictable, steady, and passionless. My husband, once spontaneous and full of curiosity, now seemed entirely satisfied with silence. Evenings became quiet rituals in separate rooms, and our connection slipped into something that felt more like obligation than affection. And me? I hadn't stopped craving more. I still wanted to be acknowledged, to be understood, to feel something. Maybe that's why my son, Caleb, noticed it before I could even admit it to myself. He was 18 now, tall, self-assured, and surprisingly perceptive. We had always shared a close bond, but lately he had started looking at me with a different kind of awareness, like he was the one keeping an eye on me now. "Mom, are you happy?" His words came quietly one evening as we stood side by side in the kitchen. The house was hushed. My husband had gone to bed early, and the only sound was the faint ticking of the wall clock. I gave a small laugh and stirred the tea in my mug. "Of course, sweetheart. Why do you ask?" Caleb leaned against the counter, arms folded across his chest. "You don't seem happy." The directness in his voice caught me off guard, and when I looked at him, I saw more than just my little boy. He had become a young man, intuitive, gentle, and deeply attuned to me in ways I hadn't expected. I looked down at my hands. "Sometimes life just shifts," I said quietly. "People change." "That doesn't mean you stop enjoying it," he replied softly. "You used to have this light in you, Mom. What happened to it?" I wanted to tell him everything. The quiet ache of being unseen. The hollowness that crept in slowly. But he was my son, and some burdens didn't belong on his shoulders. So instead I smiled. "I'm okay, Caleb." "Really?" He didn't push, but the look on his face said he didn't believe me. In the days that followed, I saw it more clearly, how Caleb kept checking in, starting conversations, trying to lift my spirits with jokes or stories from school. His protectiveness had always been there, but now it felt more like companionship. He wasn't just my son, he was my lifeline. One evening, we went for a walk through the quiet streets of Charleston, something we hadn't done in years. The autumn air was cool, and the historic homes lining the cobblestone streets glowed softly in the lamplight. For the first time in a long time, I felt the world open up again. "Tell me something," I said, slipping my arm through his as we walked. "What do you see in your future?" Caleb paused, then shrugged lightly. "I don't know yet, but whatever it is, I want to live it fully. No regrets." I smiled. "That's a pretty good plan." He looked at me thoughtfully. "What about you?" I stopped walking. What did I want? For so many years, I had been the wife, the mother, the steady hand keeping everything afloat. My own dreams had slowly been boxed up and stored on some forgotten shelf. But now, under the stars and wrapped in the quiet hum of the city, I knew. I didn't want to disappear. I didn't want to keep dimming myself to make others comfortable. I wanted to feel alive again. "I think," I began, my voice trembling with honesty, "I want to start choosing myself again." Caleb smiled. "Good." Something in the air changed. We kept walking until we reached a little cafe tucked between two buildings. Warm light spilled from its windows, and the soft sound of a jazz trio drifted through the open doors. Just outside, a few couples were slow dancing under string lights, swaying as if the world around them had fallen away. I stopped, captivated. It had been so long since I'd let myself enjoy a moment like this, without guilt, without planning the next step. Before I could say anything, Caleb gently reached for my hand. "Come on," he said with a grin. "Dance with me." I laughed, resisting. "Caleb, what are you?" But he didn't wait for me to finish. He was already pulling me toward the golden light of the patio, where the music wrapped around us like a spell. His hand was steady in mine, the other resting lightly on my waist. "You don't dance," I teased. "Neither do you," he replied. "We'll figure it out." And just like that, we did. We moved with the music, not perfectly, but it didn't matter. We laughed, tripped, spun too quickly, then caught each other. The years of stillness cracked open, releasing a joy I didn't know I had stored away. The jazz melody floated through the evening air, and for the first time in forever, I felt like myself again. When he twirled me, awkward and playful, I stumbled into his arms, laughing so hard I had to cling to him for balance. And I realized that maybe this was the beginning of something new. Not just a chapter, but an entirely different book. One I was finally ready to write. "Look at you, Mom," Caleb teased, his smile wide and unfiltered. "Didn't know you had moves like that." "Oh, hush." I laughed, my cheeks flushed, not just from the movement, but from something far more unexpected. A kind of spark I hadn't felt in years. A thrill. A freedom. And then, almost as quickly, his expression changed.
It softened.
"You should do this more often," he said, his voice barely rising above the music. "You know, just live." The word hung there between us, heavier than it should have been. Because deep down, I knew he was right. I had spent so long simply existing, taking care of everyone else, managing the household, keeping up appearances. Somewhere in all of that, I had stopped doing things simply because they made me happy. I had forgotten what it meant to enjoy something just for the sake of joy. But here, under a canopy of lights outside a quiet Charleston cafe, dancing to a song neither of us could name, something stirred inside me. Something I thought was long gone. "Live," I repeated under my breath. Caleb grinned and spun me one last time before the song came to an end. "You're beautiful when you're not overthinking," he said gently. I exhaled, the rush of the moment settling into a quiet warmth that lingered in my chest. Maybe he was right. Maybe it really was time to start choosing joy again. We walked home slowly, the brick sidewalks slick with dew, and the air holding the last whispers of jazz from the cafe behind us. The house was just as we had left it, dim, still, hushed under the sleepy haze of late night. My husband, as expected, was already asleep. His routine was as solid as the foundation beneath our feet. Early to bed, early to rise, no deviation, no spark. But I didn't want to slip back into the rhythm of that quiet life. Not tonight. My mind was still humming with memories of laughter, of movement, of feeling present in a way I hadn't for years. Caleb leaned casually in the doorway, watching me like he knew exactly what I was thinking. "You're not tired, are you?" I hesitated, then shook my head.
"No, I'm really not."
"Good," he said, eyes lighting up. "Let's keep it going." I raised an eyebrow. "Keep what going?" He just shrugged, a mischievous sparkle in his eyes. "When was the last time you did something just because it made you happy?" That question stopped me cold. When had I last done that? I couldn't even remember. I had spent years making sure my family was okay, smoothing out every wrinkle in their lives, never once stopping to check if I was crumpling in the process. Caleb pushed off the wall and grabbed my jacket. "Come on," he said, handing it to me. I stared at him. "Where are we going?" "You'll see." I hesitated. I really should have gone upstairs, slipped back into the comfort of routine. But I thought of the way I'd felt tonight, unburdened, present-free.
I didn't want that to end. Not yet.
So I took the jacket, slipped it on, and followed him out the door. 20 minutes later, we stood in front of a dance studio tucked between a bakery and a bookstore, its windows dark, but a faint light glowing from within. "A dance studio?" I asked, bewildered. He pulled out a key and grinned. I might have asked a friend for a favor. I blinked. "How exactly did you manage that?" "I have my ways," he said, pushing open the door with a wink. Inside, the studio was quiet and warm. The polished floors shimmered under the low lights, and tall mirrors stretched across the far wall, catching our reflections in soft double. The space felt still and sacred, like it was waiting for something, or someone, to wake it up. Caleb walked over to a speaker in the corner, brows furrowed in concentration as he scrolled through his phone. A moment later, soft music filled the room, low, melodic, patient. "Caleb," I began, nerves creeping in. "I don't know if—" "No excuses," he said gently, already holding out his hand. "Tonight we dance." I glanced at our mirrored reflection. The woman staring back at me looked unsure, a little worn, but beneath that, beneath the tiredness and the fear, there was a spark, something waiting to break through. "Fine," I said, stepping forward. "But if I trip over my own feet, that's on you." He chuckled.
Deal.
And just like that, we began to move. At first, I was stiff. Every step felt calculated, like I had forgotten how to move freely. Like I'd locked away every part of myself that once delighted in rhythm, in connection in the moment. But Caleb was patient. "Don't think," he whispered, his voice low. "Just feel." So I closed my eyes. And I let go. I let the music settle into my bones. I let my body remember. I danced, not perfectly, not gracefully, but honestly. The years of hiding, of fading, of going through the motions, they began to unravel with each step, each sway. And something broke open inside me.
A release. A joy.
A forgotten fire. When the music finally ended, I was breathless and laughing, my whole body buzzing with something I couldn't name. Caleb smiled, eyes shining. "Told you it was still in there." I shook my head, catching my breath. "I can't believe how much I've missed this." "Then stop missing it," he said. "Do something about it." I hesitated. "Like what?" "Take a dance class. Go somewhere new. Do something just for you. Not for anyone else." I stared at him, his words lighting up a part of me I thought had gone dark forever. Could I really do that? Step outside the life I'd so carefully built? Choose something wild, something selfishly joyful? The answer came quietly, without doubt. "Yes," I said, smiling. "I think I will." And with that, something shifted. I wasn't just someone's wife. I wasn't just Caleb's mother. I was myself. And that, for the first time in years, was enough. The next morning, I woke up before the sun, sore but lighter, like I had danced off years of weight I didn't know I was carrying. The next morning, I expected to feel sore, maybe even a little sluggish after the unexpected night of dancing. But instead of exhaustion, I felt electric. Awake. Every part of me buzzed with something I hadn't felt in years. I stretched slowly, my limbs still tingling from the movement, and let the memory of the night before replay in my mind, the laughter, the freedom, the rhythm, the way I had let go. It had been so long since I felt that present in my own body. Not just functioning, but truly living inside it. I felt beautiful, not because of anything I wore or did, but simply because I was there.
Alive.
Real. I was still basking in that feeling when Caleb strolled into the kitchen, already grinning as he reached for the coffee pot. "You're still glowing," he said with a playful smirk. I rolled my eyes but couldn't suppress the smile tugging at my lips. "I had fun last night. So, let's do it again." I raised an eyebrow. "Again?" He leaned back against the counter, sipping his coffee like he'd just made the most casual, brilliant suggestion in the world.
Yeah.
"Why stop now? If you're really feeling this, maybe it's time to try something new. Something different." I tilted my head. Like what? Caleb's grin widened. He pulled out his phone, tapped a few times, and a song started playing through the speaker, slow, rich, and deeply rhythmic. The melody slipped through the room like silk, smooth and sensual, entirely unlike anything I'd danced before. Bachata, he said, swaying slightly to the beat. Bachata, I repeated, unfamiliar with the word. It's not just a dance, he explained, his voice suddenly more serious. It's about connection, about storytelling. You don't just move, you feel. The music leads and you follow together. His description lit something inside me, a spark of curiosity, tinged with something bolder. I watched him move in time with the music, his body relaxed and fluid, and I found myself wanting to feel that way too. I took a sip of my coffee, pretending to play it cool. All right, I said slowly. Teach me. That evening, we pushed the furniture aside in the living room, creating space where the ordinary could fade away. As the first notes floated through the air, a thrill of nervous anticipation stirred in me. Okay, Caleb said, standing in front of me. Bachata is all about connection. Keep your steps smooth, your body soft. Don't think about it too much, just feel. He took my hands and placed them on his shoulders. His hands rested lightly on my hips. First step, side to side. 1, 2, 3, tap. I followed, hesitant at first. The rhythm was slower than salsa, but richer, deeper. There was something intimate in it, something that made my heart beat faster. Good, he murmured. Now, let's loosen it up. Add your hips. As he rolled his body gently into the rhythm, I felt my face grow warm. My movements were stiff, too controlled. He chuckled, noticing. You're overthinking it, he teased. I'm not, I said, laughing nervously. He raised an eyebrow. Prove it. I closed my eyes, exhaled, and let the music seep into my skin. I stopped counting steps, stopped focusing on where my feet landed. When I opened my eyes again, something had shifted. I was moving, not perfectly, but freely, in sync with him, with the beat, with myself. Better, he said, softer this time. The music swirled around us, filling every corner of the room, turning the walls into something infinite. We didn't talk. We didn't need to. Our bodies spoke the language of trust, of surrender, of joy. It wasn't just dancing. It was a rediscovery of something I didn't know I was missing. And I didn't want it to end. In the days that followed, bachata became our nightly ritual. After dinner, after dishes, after the world outside quieted down, we danced. At first, I stumbled, stepping too hard or too soon. But gradually something changed. My body began to trust itself. I moved without second-guessing. I laughed more. I let go. One night, after a particularly smooth set, I collapsed onto the couch, breathless and glowing with sweat. I think I'm getting the hang of this, I said between laughs. Caleb dropped beside me, his shirt clinging to his back, his smile easy. Told you. I leaned my head back, catching my breath. I don't know why I never tried this before. He glanced at me, his expression softening. Maybe you weren't ready to. And maybe he was right. Maybe I had spent so many years keeping that part of me hidden, tucked behind roles and routines. Maybe I had been too scared to want more. Too afraid of disrupting the fragile balance of a life that felt safe, even if it wasn't satisfying.
But now?
Now, I wanted everything. I wanted to wake up each morning with anticipation, not resignation. I wanted to explore new places, try new things, laugh until my stomach hurt, and move my body in ways that made me feel alive. And as I looked at Caleb, this young man who had quietly become my confidant, my mirror, my companion, I realized I wasn't on this journey alone. I was awakening. And this was just the beginning.